Okay. Again. There's a hair. Again, with another book review. It's been a while since my last one. I apologize. I actually finished reading this book a while ago and haven't gotten around to making a video. Until now. I just finished reading The Book Thief by Mark Zusak. Zusak? Mark Zusak. No, I just finished Tagnabbit! I just finished reading The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. Yeah, I'm sure most people are familiar with this book by now. It's been out for a while. And not only that, but it's been made into a major motion film. I know with most readers, it's always that kind of conflict of seeing a movie that's based on a book or getting into it, because not always, but in most cases, I think it's fair to say in most cases, the book is usually better. The book is just usually a little more profound, a little deeper, a little more interesting, has more depth in the development of the plot, the characters, the ending, the conclusion, all that stuff. Whereas Hollywood sometimes has a tendency to, how could I say it, sometimes dumb down the story. And that's not always true, but sometimes it is. And I bring this up because in this review, I want to talk about the movie a little bit first. When I saw the movie, I saw it one time in theaters. When I saw it, I was touched by the storytelling, the characters, the situations, and how visually the story came together and flowed, and how it was told, and especially I was just kind of captivated with this little girl, Liesel, who is the main character of The Book Thief. To give you a basic overlay of the plot, so it's 1930s Nazi Germany. Liesel, she's 9 years old, and she just arrives on Himmel Street, in Molking? I really don't know how to say it, and I apologize. In this town in Germany, where she is being taken to live with her foster family, the Hubermans. And at first she doesn't want to, and she's a 9-year-old girl. She's struggling with being separated from her mother. And her brother, her younger brother, had just passed away a few days before. And so she arrives on Himmel Street, and her foster parents are Hans and Rosa. And through the story, she just eventually develops a relationship with them, and as well as some neighbor kids and their family, and her best friend ends up being this little boy named Rudy, who's about her age. And she just kind of makes a home for herself in this little neighborhood, this little German neighborhood. Overall, though, the big situation is that it's Nazi Germany, and World War II is coming upon them, and so there's a lot of issues going on in terms of just the war and how Hitler is running Germany at the time. Lots of concentration camps. Any kind of Jewish association is considered a negative influence or aspect in any of their lives at that time. And just a lot of really, really tragic things. And Liesel, as a child, slowly just learns more and more about them, and that kind of begins to shape her outlook on everything. That's the general idea of the storyline. It's about this young girl growing up in Nazi Germany, basically, and how she learns, how she grows as an individual, and into her teenage years, being a witness to this war. So, with all that being said, reading the book was a very different experience from watching the movie. The movie was done well, in my opinion. The book is written well, in my opinion. And even though they reflect each other, it's very different experiences. watching the one and reading the other. In the book, a lot of the same things happen in the movie, except there's just a lot more depth. Because of that, the book is much more devastating. It's not exactly a happy read, and you shouldn't really expect that when you're reading about Nazi Germany anyway. But for me, I started like up here with how much I was enjoying the book. But the more tragedies that occurred, and the further that he dove into the war and what was happening at that time and what was happening to his characters, I slowly found myself going from here to here, and then here, and then here, and so on and so forth. The further I got, the less I started enjoying it. And it's a long book. I mean, it's over 500 pages. And so for that long, it was heart-wrenching to the point to where I didn't always enjoy what I was reading. And I know that some people would say, well, that's good. He's making you feel and understand the pain and the confusion of that time and just how everybody must have felt. And I agree. I think that's a good thing. It's not bad that he was helping us clearly see how hard it must have been for the Jewish people and some of the Germans. Something I enjoyed about this book was that he has several German characters who are not for Hitler's work. And so it was nice to see that kind of fresh perspective, because sometimes it's easy just to kind of put all the Germans of that time in a bubble of being like, oh, well, they did this. But that's not true. Everyone's an individual and they all made their own choices. And there were those Germans who were not for the Nazi Party and what they were doing to the Jewish community. And I really enjoyed him expounding upon that and showing us how much fear those Germans had to go through alongside the Jewish people, and how much they were walking on eggshells just to not mess up, to protect themselves, their families, their communities. Back to him talking about the pain and the tragedy and just how it kept like bringing me down emotionally. It wasn't a bad thing. The only thing that made it too much and a little overbearing for me was that he doesn't give any kind of sense of hope, in my opinion. For me, I'm a pretty optimistic person, and so in tragic situations, I believe there's always hope, and that's how it is in the human experience. I have hope. I firmly believe that that there's always hope. I believe in Jesus, and that's my faith, and through that he's taught me that there's always hope, and the end is not the end. And this book, I don't know what Markus Zusak believes in any regard, but to me it came across as only human devastation and human corruption, and that there's just no good. And I don't think that's true. And so with that being my perspective, because he just let things get worse and worse and more brooding and darker, and all the characters too, they felt it, and it's appropriate. They should be feeling that pressure, but they all became very morbid in their daily life, and even in situations that weren't about the war. They just would say things or do things. I was like, I don't know. I feel like there should be some kind of lightness there, and there just wasn't. Where there is bad, there is good. If you're going to write a tragedy, there has to be a counterpart. There just always is. And I wasn't getting that from this book. It was just, it was very heavy. And there was no balance of light or goodness. I don't know. And there were definitely situations where the characters went out of their way to do something good for someone else. But reading it as a whole, the action was good, but the situation just got worse and dark. And so all the characters just kind of succumb to a very death-like attitude where gratefulness or love or kindness wasn't expressed. I just would have liked to see that at least some of the characters holding on to some kind of hope and wanting to share that a little more. And again, that's my opinion. That's just how I read it. Something else I didn't enjoy about this book was that there was very little mystery to it. I like learning what's going to happen next along with the character and the situations. And something he did in writing this book was he gave away the ending. And not just the ending, but like what was going to happen next before it actually happened. So there was always like, it acted as this dark cloud that just kind of loomed over everything. And so to kind of try to make an example without giving too much away, there could be a little light moment between Liesel and Rudy. Let's say they were doing something as kids and they were having a fun little moment in the story. But then him as the writer, he would kind of write something about, they had this moment, but little did they know that such and such was going to happen to so and so. And he basically spells it out for you, and so you're like, oh, well, now I know that person's doomed, or etc., etc. And he did the same thing with the ending of the book. And despite seeing the movie, I knew it was going to happen. I still wanted that mystery because I didn't know if it'd be different in writing as opposed to on screen. But he gave it away. He gave the ending away. He literally wrote the ending several chapters before the ending actually happened, and then we go back several months and see what leads up to that happening, and then we read the ending over again a second time. So I didn't enjoy that. There just wasn't any mystery or reader like developing along with the character, which I crave in a book. So not my favorite choice, not my favorite writing style, but interesting. I haven't seen too much of that style done before, to where it's written in a very crafty way. Like, it all flowed and worked well together. It's just not my favorite thing to read. Something I did enjoy about this book was the characters. I thought the characters were very well written. They're individuals. They all have different little quirks and attitudes, and I liked seeing them grow through the years of the story. It was interesting to see the different relationships and where they went as the war progressed. And I really enjoyed that. They seem like real people. And that's not always easy to do. There's some books where it's just very hollow or unbelievable for some of the characters. But I thought he did a really excellent job constructing these characters, especially since there's so many of them in different generations. Like Liesel and Rudy are children, and their parents are middle-aged, and then there's a bunch of older people, and each one of these people have their own backstory and histories, and some of them are quite tragic, and so I really enjoyed that, and just wondering why this person is the way they are, and then he kind of lets you delve into that a little bit. And the point is, his characters were really excellent. I really enjoyed that about him. The narrator of the book is not who you might think. I don't think I've read a story narrated from this perspective before. I'm not going to say who it is, because for any of you who might be interested in reading this book, it's something you kind of need to discover on your own. But it was an interesting perspective. Again, I didn't like it because this narrator kind of had the same attitude as the other characters, where there's just everything is hopeless and devastating. And I felt like the narrator should have been devastated for sure. But I feel like of all the characters, he would be the one who would be a little more hopeful. But he was one of the worst Debbie Downers, if you will. Anyway, it was a really bold choice though, and I enjoyed that happened. I don't have much else to say about this book. I started out enjoying it about halfway, or maybe a little more than halfway. I got a little burdened by it. The balance was kind of empty. It was tragedy and devastation, and there was just nothing there to hold on to. And reading some of the real stories, you know, from World War II, there was evidence of people holding on and being strong and trying, and I can't begin to understand what they went through, but I believe people will always, some will always, you know, strive for hope and good, and I just would have liked to see a little more of that in this story. I'm sure there are people out there who disagree, and that's okay. If you enjoyed the book, that's great. It is a well-written story. So if you're interested in World War II stories, or just the history of Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, and just if you are kind of that history buff, this would probably be a good book for you. Just be warned that it is dark, and it gets dark quick. If you don't quite have the constitution for those kinds of stories, be warned, I guess. Go into it knowing that there's going to be a lot of heavy stuff ahead of you in this book. I think that's it for this one. I've got another book review coming out soon. Hopefully I'll get to that video a little quicker than I got to this one. I really appreciate you guys watching and reaching out to me. I've had a few people reach out to me, and it's been really fun getting to connect with other readers. So I just thank you. Thank you for your time and your thoughts. And yeah, keep reading. And thanks again, guys.